Good evening. Our sages taught us in the book of Masechet Avot, the wisdom from our fathers, that there are 48 ways to attain the depth and the true understanding of Torah. Later on in time, they made a correlation. They said it's obviously not by chance that we count 49 days of the Omer. And what we should do is, a nice thing, it's not an obligation, but it's a nice thing, to every day learn and analyze and try to apply as much as possible each of those methods of attaining Torah. That would give us 48 days, and the 49th day to do a review with the upcoming of Shavuot when we re-accept the Torah. Today being the second day of the Omer, we're going to now quickly learn the first and second of those two methods. In Hebrew they're called Kinyanei HaTorah, the way to acquire the Torah. The first of everything, the first is Talmud. Now Talmud does not mean the way we understand it, the Talmud, which is the explanation of the Mishnah. Talmud means just to learn. If a person does not learn, if a person does not read, does not go and try to learn, whether it's a class, a book, anything, then there's no way to acquire any levels of attaining Torah. So that is the first. Now in that there's a lot of different concepts as well. After one learns, one has to definitely have to try to develop proper learning methods. And then one of the greatest ways to learn, and this is part of our very heritage and our tradition, is that the way we learn is from student to from teacher, teacher to student, teacher to student. That's the way it's passed on. Now, even though the oral Torah was written and it was not intended on being written, but there came a time where the Chachamim said, if we don't write it, we're going to forget it. So even though we have almost everything in writing, there still needs the concept of a teacher-student relationship in order to properly acquire Torah. And this is the concept of Talmud. Talmud means learning. Talmud means understanding. Talmud means working hard to understand. Learning Torah is not like reading a newspaper. Learning Torah, you have to activate a little more than a portion of our brain. We need to try to involve completely. We have to not be distracted as much as possible. Try to concentrate. When we concentrate in what we're doing, that's the proper way to learn. That is the first, called Talmud. The second step, and that brings us to today, is Shmiat HaOzen, listening. Literally, lending your ear to listen. Now this trait means that whenever you know that there's going to be a Divrei Torah, there's going to be someone that's going to say something of Torah, instead of running away, or instead of saying it's not important, going and listening. It shows also an aspect of humility. If you go over and you're willing to hear from anybody, whether they are older or younger, whether you think they are wiser or less, but going over and listening to each and every person, because you can learn something from anybody and everybody, whether they're older or younger or not. So it's very important. Shmiat HaOzen means go over, lend it over. The Chachamim say that the words of Torah, we should be thirsty for them like the way we are thirsty for water when one needs to quench their thirst. Go and run after to listen and to listen. These are the two basic foundations of acquiring Torah. Number one, to learn, to commit yourself to learn. And number two is go over to hear. Nowadays, with the advancement of technology, there's so many ways we can hear. We can hear audio classes, we can hear video classes, we can do telephone conferences. There's so many ways to hear Torah and to learn Torah with, unfortunately, even all of the chaos that the technology and internet has brought to the moral status of the world. Nevertheless, we try to combat it as much as possible with using it for the good. And one way to use it for the good is the way of spreading Torah and recording Torah and letting it go. And this was what helps us with Shmiat HaOzen and having people thirsty to want to learn more and more. So these are the first two. With Hashem, we're going to go on this journey. We'll do one a day, all the way till 2 days before Shavuot, and hopefully accept Torah in a greater, in a deeper way, in a greater facet than normally this coming Shavuot, B'ezrat Hashem.